Forget the trends, forget the loudest voices online. These are the 9 pistols that survived every expert argument in 2025. Every time a new pistol gets hyped up, real trainers, armorers, and the guys who actually run thousands of rounds a month tear it apart. Most guns don't survive that kind of scrutiny, but these did. And listen, some of these picks are gonna piss people off. A couple will have you nodding instantly, a couple will make you double check the list, but that's exactly the point. This isn't a popularity contest, it's about what actually lasts when the hype dies. So if you want the truth, the guns experts still trust, still carry, and still teach with, stay right here. Some of these choices are about to prove the internet very, very wrong. Ask any high-level trainer why the Shadow 2 carry refuses to disappear from expert shortlists, and the answer is almost always the same. When you need clean hits under real pressure, steel still wins. That's not marketing, it's the blunt stance you'll hear from instructors who've run thousands of shooters through advanced CCW and competition-level drills in 2025. This year alone, the Shadow 2 carry kept showing up in places the polymer crowd didn't expect. Long day defensive courses where shooters struggled with fatigue, higher round count reliability evaluations, and side-by-side trigger control tests where small mistakes meant big score drops. Experts kept citing the same advantages: its recoil management that saves seconds, its predictable break that cleans up sloppy fundamentals, and its ability to stay consistent even when shooters get tired, sweaty, and stressed. Sure, some criticize the all-steel build as old school. Instructors counter with results. That extra weight prevents the micro flinch and muzzle rise that cost shooters points. New gun owners often miss that nuance, but professionals don't. They see the Shadow 2 carry dominating last pistol standing drills year after year. And that's why experts still recommend it in 2025. Not because it's trendy, but because performance hasn't given them a single excuse to take it off the list. Every time the debate comes up, isn't the 92FS old news? The room gets quiet because everyone knows what happens next. Someone brings up the same infamous story. A so-called modern champion tried to dethrone the 92FS during a 2,000 round endurance test, and it was the polymer gun that tapped out first. The Beretta didn't even get warm enough to matter. That rumor never dies because the result never changes. What keeps the 92FS in the expert shortlist in 2025 isn't nostalgia, it's humiliation. Newer, lighter pistols struggle in high round count classes. The 92FS walks into those environments like it's stretching before a light jog. One instructor in a national agency test described it best, not as a quote, but as an observation. The 92FS was the only gun whose failures the evaluators were waiting for and never got. Look past the memes about size and weight. The 92FS is still being run in high-level real-world training where obsolete guns get exposed fast, and yet this one keeps outlasting guns with 4 times the marketing budget. You don't retire the 92FS because it's old, you retire it when something finally beats it. And in 2025, nothing has as of yet. And if you think that's stubborn longevity, wait until you see the next one. The one experts refuse to leave at home. 2025 exposed a flaw in a lot of pistols everyone assumed would dominate. During a series of agency qualifying days, several of the year's hyped releases started choking under the same conditions: rain, mud, tight shooting schedules, and drills that punished anything less than perfect engineering. When the dust finally settled, one gun kept showing up at the top of every clean run: the Springfield Echelon 4.0C. What impressed experts wasn't a viral test or a dramatic moment, it was the quiet, repeatable performance in environments where the next-gen polymer pistols were getting sidelined for midday cleaning. The Echelon just kept moving through rotations, and that consistency changed how instructors used it. It became the pistol they pulled out when they needed to demonstrate a drill without wondering whether the gun would cooperate. By mid-year, more than a few trainers had privately switched to carrying it themselves, not because it was trendy, but because it removed problems the new releases kept creating. Critics still call it just another striker-fired entry, but that ignores the reality every expert saw. In the toughest 2025 conditions, the Echelon held its ground while others folded. That's why it's still on the expert list for 2025. It earned a place the hard way. The Kimber Micro 9 isn't built for forgiveness, it's built for precision. That's the line I heard from a veteran CCW instructor this year, and it really stuck, because he wasn't talking about concealment, comfort, or aesthetics. He was talking about split recovery consistency, the one metric most shooters never measure, but every expert pays attention to. Here's the part nobody expects. Out of all the micro pistols tested in 2025, the Micro 9 was the only one that kept its recovery rhythm within the same tight margin, even after long training days, sweaty grit, or the fatigue that usually destroys timing. Polymer competitors wondered, some drifted more with every magazine. The Micro 9 locked into a pattern and stayed there. The usual complaints of snappy, too light, old design don't hold any water when you're looking at actual performance under pressure. Experts aren't recommending it because it's comfortable, they're recommending it because it delivers the same shot cadence, same return path, and same control window every single time. That's why it stays on the expert list in 2025. When consistency matters more than comfort, the Micro 9 is the micro pistol that doesn't lose its rhythm. And if that surprised you, well, wait until you see what's sitting at number 5. In 2025, one tiny change exposed every pistol that had been coasting on reputation. Agency shifted to a harsher suppressor standard test that pushed back pressure, optics washed out, and slight taming far beyond what most pistols were designed for. That single change triggered a chain reaction. Popular favorites started failing in ways nobody predicted. Erratic ejection, timing stalls, flickering optics, and mid-drill malfunctions that forced trainers to rewrite entire courses. But one gun never entered that failure cascade at all: the effin' 509 Tactical. It wasn't the loudest gun or the one hyped on forums. It was simply the only pistol that absorbed the new environment instead of fighting it. Under the new suppressor loads, under rough handling, under red dot glare, the 509 Tactical ran without needing adjustments, excuses, or special setups. That's why experts still recommend it in 2025, not because it dazzles, but because it survives the exact conditions that expose weakness in everything else. When a gun keeps performing after the standards get harder, not easier, it stops being a pick and becomes a baseline. And if the next pistol on this list can't handle the chaos the way this one does, you'll hear it immediately. Experts still recommend the PSA Dagger in 2025 for one reason: it changed real behavior on the range this year, not forum opinion. The shift started quietly. Armorers running agency rental lines noticed something unusual. Higher-priced name-brand pistols were coming off the rack for cleaning, parts checks, and malfunction clears, while the Dagger kept cycling through hands without needing a break. That wasn't luck, it was the first sign that the old cheap gun stigma no longer applied. What made the difference in 2025 was how the Dagger handled abuse that normally exposes weak pistols. During high round rental abuse and CCW refresher drills, shooters expecting a compromise learned it could outperform models costing twice as much. Ergonomic shortcuts didn't show up, trigger wear didn't show up, even instructors who dismissed it early in the year began switching students onto it when their usual recommendations failed mid-session. The turning point came when one well-known polymer favorite failed 2 training cycles in a row, replaced by daggers because they simply kept working. That single change forced a wider rethink. Maybe budget wasn't the liability everyone assumed. Experts still recommend the Dagger in 2025 because it proved results, not price, decide what stays in rotation. Every time instructors try to rotate something new and improved into their holsters for 2025, the M&P9 2.0 Compact quietly pushes its way back in. Not because it's familiar, because the performance data refuses to move. One training group even ran a concealment reliability audit this spring, tracking real draw to first shot times under jackets, sweatshirts, plate carriers. The Compact topped the chart in every clothing category. What keeps it on the expert list isn't hype, it's the one metric most shooters never measure: stability across changing instructors and environments. When the gun's handed to different trainers, different grip styles, different weather conditions, the results stay nearly identical. That's something a few big-name challengers couldn't replicate. A polymer rival failed adverse duty drills when its tolerances tightened after heat. Another 2025 favorite struggled in full-day courses, slipping into inconsistent lockup by late afternoon. The Compact doesn't care who's running it. It behaves the same way no matter who pulls the trigger. And that's why experts still recommend it in 2025, not because it's beloved, but because the numbers keep sending it back to the front of the line. And if you think that standard is tough, wait until you see what the next pick had to survive. When you look at what the top instructors, agency shooters, and serious competitors still trust in 2025, the VP9 keeps showing up in the same quiet, dependable way it always has. Never hyped, never loud, but always present when the targets actually matter. It's the pistol that gets pulled out on test day by people who don't gamble with their scores. The VP9's staying power comes from how it handles the worst parts of training that most trend pistols fail. High round classes, long rotations, mud days, back-to-back quals, every environment that exposes timing issues or recoil problems in other polymer guns only reinforces why the VP9 keeps its place. Experts point to its accuracy retention, its low impulse return path, and the point-and-run feel that holds together even when shooters get tired. And while other pistols chase headlines, the VP9 does something different. It performs without needing attention. That's why instructors note that in 2025, shooters don't brag about the VP9, they just show up with it when the consequences are real. That's why it's still near the top of every expert shortlist this year. When the tests get real, the VP9 is still the gun nobody retires. The conversation always ends the same way. When the results come in, the Glock 19 Gen 5 goes right back to the top of every expert shortlist that matters in 2025. Not because it's famous, not because it's the Glock everyone owns, it's because the instructors, agency shooters, and CCW trainers who live in the new 2025 training environment can't justify removing it. The modern reality is brutal. New optic standards, hotter defensive ammo, harsher scoring, tighter qual windows, and back-to-back training cycles that expose weaknesses fast. Most pistols had at least one bad year under the new conditions. The G19 Gen 5, on the other hand, didn't. It held accuracy when optics were added, kept recoil predictable with new loads, stayed consistent across multiple instructors, and shrugged off the rain mud malfunction gauntlets that knocked trendier models off the table. That's why experts still recommend it in 2025, not as a legacy pick, but as the default tool. The one pistol you hand to a student, a rookie, or a competitor without worrying about what happens next. When everything else gets more complicated, this is the gun that refuses to add problems, and that's why it's still number one. Bonus pick coming up next, and it's the one gun experts admit they didn't expect to survive 2025's pressure tests. The TP9 Elite SC didn't earn its place this year because of hype. It earned it the moment somebody else's pistol failed, and this compact Canik had to be borrowed to finish a 2025 training block. That single handoff told instructors way more than any control test all month. When the pressure spiked, the Canik stayed controllable, kept its lockup clean, and returned to zero without drama. Experts still recommend it because of one thing shooters rarely test on purpose: performance under grime and fatigue. Optics off, hands wet, sweat mixing with dust from long strings. The Elite SC held its recoil path tighter than several bigger, pricier pistols. That hidden advantage is exactly why it had kept showing up in holsters even among people who normally avoid compact guns altogether. What most shooters miss is that the Elite SC strengths only show up after real rounds and real stress. It's not loud online, and it's not marketed as a hero gun, but in 2025, it quietly saved multiple training days when trendier picks choked first. That's why experts still recommend it. After this year's cycles, nobody calls the TP9 Elite SC a backup anymore. And if you think those bonus picks were just the leftovers, wait until you see how the next list opens. The gun sitting at the top of that one is already upsetting instructors before the next month even starts. The PX9 Compact wasn't supposed to be on any expert shortlist this year. Most dismissed it as budget noise, but after enough real 2025 range cycles, that attitude flipped fast. The moment that changed minds was simple. The PX9 kept running while several higher-priced pistols didn't. Instructors noticed it surviving rough rental abuse, long training days, and grime-heavy match stages with surprising consistency. Accuracy held longer than expected, lockup stayed stable under heat, and it avoided the feed issues that sidelined the more premium picks. What caught experts off guard wasn't hype, but repeatable performance, especially in higher round environments where the pistols everyone expected to dominate started dropping off. The PX9 didn't sneak onto lists because it's affordable, it forced its way in because it handled real-world pressure better than the guns meant to overshadow it. And the next bonus pick shows experts aren't just rewarding surprises, they're rewarding results. Even the instructors admitted it. Nobody had the APX A1 Carry on their board this year, yet it was the only micro carry pistol that stayed running during a 2025 block where two trendier compacts choked back to back. No hype, no online fan base, just a quiet performance that forced its way into the numbers. What shifted experts is simple. The APX A1 Carry didn't win by flash, but by consistency. It handled long rental cycles without slight hesitation, kept its rhythm through failure-inducing drills, and showed zero erratic ejection when conditions went sideways. It's not beloved as its looks are plain and its reputation nearly non-existent, but reliability under pressure is the one metric experts can't argue with. That's why, despite being overlooked all year, it earned its place on every series shortlist for 2025. Next bonus pick is even more controversial. What forced the G2C back into expert conversations wasn't nostalgia or price, it was a 2025 drill that exposed which compacts handled real pressure. In that session, two higher profile pistols choked once heat and grime built up. The G2C didn't just finish the string, it posted the only clean run of the cycle, and that single result made instructors reassess a gun many had written off years ago. The turning point was its failure-resistant timing. Under fast transitions and compromised grip, the G2C maintained lockup consistency that surprised even the evaluators. One trainer summed up the shift bluntly: "We stopped arguing about its past the moment it beat guns twice its price." Experts aren't calling it perfect, just proven, and that's why it earned a quiet but legitimate place among pistols still recommended in 2025. the G2C forced respect the hard way. The last bonus pick isn't just surprising, it challenges an entire category. Nobody had the PDP on their 2025 shortlist until the new optic standard drill exposed something the other pistols simply couldn't handle. When agencies shifted to faster optic transition tests, left-handed strings, sudden grip swaps, and compressed time accuracy, the PDP didn't just pass, it thrived in a way that forced instructors to reevaluate it on the spot. What separates it isn't endurance or nostalgia, it's adaptability. The slide geometry, the point and run ergonomics, and the way it maintains control during rapid directional changes gave it an advantage that trendier pistols stumbled through. One instructor who had written it off as too specialized admitted after the drill that the PDP was the only gun that stayed predictable when the scoring tightened and the pressure jumped. That's why experts still recommend it in 2025, not because it's rugged, but because modern shooting changed and the PDP changed with it. The Staccato HCP4 stays on expert lists in 2025 for one reason. It meets the new performance requirements without modifications or workarounds. When agencies adopted faster optic-to-target transitions, mandatory left-hand competency, and tighter compressed time accuracy windows, most polymer pistols needed retraining curves or equipment adjustments. The Staccato HCP4, on the other hand, didn't. Its geometry, grip mapping, and optic plane alignment already match the criteria instructors are now graded on. In independent 2025 evaluations, the HCP4 maintained directional control, transition stability, and consistent point-of-aim recovery under conditions that pushed other duty-sized pistols into corrective coaching. No legacy bias, no nostalgia factor. This is a compliance result, not a popularity one. Experts continue to recommend it because it reduces training friction. Fewer corrections, fewer misses, fewer compensations required from the shooter. In a year defined by stricter standards than looser preferences, the HCP4 isn't a standout, it's the baseline others fail to match. So tell me, did your favorite survive the expert cut? Or are you still convinced the top-rated guns on forums can make it through 2025? Drop your real opinion below. What would you have added, and what do you think got completely snubbed? And listen, if you want next month's expert picks, or you want to see actual side-by-side data instead of shiny marketing charts, hit subscribe and ring that bell. No paid reviews. We've got no paid reviews here, no filters, just the bare naked truth every month. Smash like if you made it to the end without raging. See you in the next one.